How do you cash out your cryptos or even run a business in a 1984 style surveillance net? The travel rules, guys, they're kicking in. The blockchain surveillance is tightening. Coins are getting flagged left and right. And the window to move your gains into banks is closing fast. So the real question is, can you still use your money even when the system doesn't want you to? The answer is yes. It's called payment cloaking. In the next few minutes, we'll break down how this method works for your coins, the risks you want to avoid, and which crypto holders should actually go through with it. Without further ado, let's get into it. They want to ban you from using your own money. And this is all part of a much bigger shift from the blockchain surveillance digital gulag to banking blacklists, shutting down entire industries from operating online, the Online Safety Act, and that was the theme of our previous networking event a few days ago. By popular demand, we are hosting another one on September 26th in the building right behind me in the city of London. This one specifically on how to bank high-risk businesses and cash out crypto under the radar. So if you're interested, the link is in the description down below. But back to the topic, governments, they don't outright ban industries like crypto, casinos, or escorts. Why? Because they use them too. Crypto makes great collateral for banks. Monero moves CIA money off the books. Casinos clean the country's drug profits, and escorts are a great way to honey trap politicians. Now, instead, the government puts pressure on banks and basically says, make it as hard as possible for these industries to open accounts, and they'll disappear on their own. If you're part of the big club, don't worry, you'll get access to NatWest, Barclays, HSBC, like as if nothing ever happened. But if you're not, try moving a six-figure crypto sum into your account and see how fast compliance slams the doors. These choke points operate on blacklists. For crypto, it's the blockchain surveillance companies like Chainalysis, TaxBit, or TRM. And for banking, you have the Cyphers database in the UK, you have MasterCard's match list. But if you ever get onto one of these databases, good luck getting off. Tainted crypto, it stays tainted forever. And for banking, it's just easier to scrub that legal entity and get a new one because all those companies are going to be radioactive. You're not going to open any accounts with them. Now, we've talked a lot about flexible accounting and offshore structures in the past videos, but what if you're just the average Joe with six figures in unreported crypto, maybe no source of funds? Is there a way around these choke points without spending half of it in legal or accounting fees? The answer lies in the industries that have been blacklisted for decades, such as adult entertainment, CBD, pharma, casinos. They understood something very smart. Instead of fighting the banks head on, you just change the story of the transaction. And that is called cloaking. So, if you've ever bought an adult gadget or entertainment online, the store will usually sell you one thing, but the card statement says something else, vague entertainment insights, for example. And they'll even have a website specifically for the payment processing or with the banks, very kosher, events management or modeling, but the customer gets to see the good stuff. Have one reality for the client, another one for the banks. And crypto investors can use the exact same trick. First, let me show you how it all works before I explain all the caveats. Instead of cashing out into your personal account, you're going to send those cryptos into a payment service provider. You can think of them like a bridge that translates your crypto into banking. By the way, that's the Tower Bridge in London. They're the same middlemen that all the casino sites and the adult entertainment business uses. Their job is to translate or to create a new identity for that transfer. Now, this is very different from flexible accounting, where you're building a paper trail that connects your asset back to a company that you control. In this case, instead of sending it to your personal bank account, because obviously there'll be 21 questions, they're going to make the purchases for you from their long-standing aged companies. So essentially, their businesses are going to make the purchase, such as a car, sometimes a house or an investment, and you in turn get the title deed. Now, this works because of a legal principle that allows for third parties to make these payments and purchases, but you have to make sure that there is a connection between you and the companies, because the first thing that a bank or a notary, if you're buying a house, is going to ask is, why is this third person making the payment for you? To make it all line up, they will usually add you as a director of one of those aged companies. They will pre-sign transfer or even loan contracts, plus a shareholder resolution. It's basically boardroom paperwork that explains why the business is making this purchase. Now, the notaries that they use, let's just say that they're very accommodating, they're friendly. Don't ask too many questions as long as the payment matches the paperwork. And by the way, these payment service providers, they're very good at making sure that the wire goes through the banking system without any hiccups. Basically, the MT103, which is bank code for a wire, must match the contract details. So if they're going to send a wire to your real estate broker's bank account, the sender, the purpose, the paperwork, if it matches, guess what? The wire goes through with no human review whatsoever. But if it doesn't, that's when the flagging begins. That's when you get an exceptions report that gets flagged, and all of a sudden you and the payment processor have a lot of explaining to do. So why doesn't everybody with undeclared crypto do this? Because you're putting a lot of trust in the payment service provider to do everything right in this complex system, and once the money moves, you have very little leverage. You see, their service and their speciality is to make sure that the transfer goes through smoothly in the banking system, but a lot of times they don't really care about all the legal minefields that may pop up 10, 15 years down the line and that you will have to answer for. Because while property law is very clear in almost all countries that a third party can pay and you will receive the title deed, it also says that the connection between you and the payer has to be airtight. There has to be a very good paper trail between you and those companies. That's why you do flexible accounting, because you're in control of all of those companies. In this case, say you want to sell that property 10, 15 years down the line, well, guess what? You may be hit with an unexplained wealth order, and now all of a sudden your asset is on the line, your property can be clawed back, but the payment service provider, they were already paid. It might be hard reaching them. The point being, these are not plug-and-play solutions. It only works if you are carefully incorporated into a credible corporate wrapper that matches your backstory. And by the way, some of the providers are very good at that. Others, like the Dubai Free Zone Company providers, not so much. Now, we don't see everything as black or white, and there's definitely a use case for PSPs. Just keep in mind that banks, they have an entire system to detect fraudulent transfers, even months or years after the fact. And here's the kicker. If it ever becomes criminal, there is no expiry date on that risk. If you're hell-bent on going down this route, then the question remains, how do you find out which one is legit or not? Simple. Ask them, where have they been able to open bank accounts? If it's in second-tier jurisdictions or online payment platforms, chances are they're not that experienced. But if they've been able to bank in Switzerland, Andorra, Liechtenstein, those first-tier countries, well, they're pretty good at building a narrative trail because their compliance and requirements are a lot higher. And secondly, look at who their client base is. They've already worked with casinos, pharma, or adult entertainment. Chances are they know what they're doing because all of these businesses, they live and die through cloaking. These providers will be a bit more expensive, usually about 5% for a six-figure transfer, but the best use case for crypto holders is if you have tainted or dirty crypto, or if you run a high-risk business. Simply put, if you don't have that Chinese middleman who will actually buy your tainted coins, it's far cheaper to just pay a fee to get them cleaned or wired through one of their networks. But for most crypto investors, if you have $6 grand in your coins, it is far safer for you to just cash out in a crypto-friendly jurisdiction, where your assets or property will actually stand the test of time, and they won't get scrutinized in the future. And that's the real split. These payment processors and payment service providers, they exist because the high-risk, blacklisted industries have no other option. But if you do have options, then you can structure it safer from the very get-go so that it would be a long-term plan. And we'll go into details on how to do that on September 26th. So if you're a crypto investor or you're in the high-risk business, we would love to see you over there. That's it for this presentation, though. If you enjoy this type of content, as always, you can share it with a friend or put a comment down below. But I'll be seeing you next time. Until then, bye-bye.